telling you my top 13 of 2013. This was a ridiculously hard decision for me to make, so I did not bother trying to do my 13th favorite or my first favorite. I just chose 13 books. There is no particular order, so please do not read into when the books are shown to you, because there is absolutely no way that I could actually choose a single favorite. It was hard enough just to pick 13 favorites. So yeah, here I go. Hope you enjoy. So first I have the Scott Pilgrim series by Brian Lee O'Malley. This is a set of graphic novels about a 20-something-year-old boy living in Toronto who finds a girl that he falls in love with instantly named Ramona Flowers, but he finds out that in order to actually be with her, he needs to defeat her deadly exes. So he has to do all of these competitions, and it kind of turns into like a weird video game-esque competition. It's really fun, it's really cool. There's also a movie made off of these, but I devoured these. I'm actually hoping to reread them in 2014. I loved them so much. Next I have Allegiant by Veronica Roth. This made my list for top 13 of 2013 for multiple reasons. One, because it was the finale of one of my favorite series and I couldn't not put it on my list. And second of all, I actually loved the ending. I really respect Veronica Roth for how she chose to end this book. I think it was a wonderful decision. I think it was probably a really hard decision for her to make, but I think it really actually played out very well for the series. I know a lot of people got angry about it, but I loved it. So this is in my top 13 because I flew through this book and because I actually really respect the author for what she did with the ending of it. Next I have The Beginning of Everything by Robin Schneider. I got this as an advanced copy from the publisher because I work at a bookstore and I work in the teen section, so I tend to get quite a few of them. Not for review on this channel or anything like that, just because I work at a bookstore. But I really liked this book. I found it pretty unprecedented in teen fiction, how it ended and how everything happened. I loved how she used kind of literary context throughout the book, like he makes his dog talk like Gatsby and stuff like that, and I thought that was wonderful and I liked it. It was lighthearted and fun and I flew through it, so I really liked it. And I don't see a lot of reviews of this on BookTube, so I kind of wanted to show it to you guys. Maybe I will do a review of it because there aren't very many of them. Next I have Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell and Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell. This is actually just the slipcover because I loaned the book to a friend recently, but both these books made my top 13 of 2013. They are so good. If you haven't read anything by Rainbow Rowell before, you have to. She's so fabulous, especially if you are a John Green fan. You will love her stuff. This book is just so cute and fun and wonderful and adorable, and it makes me want to like smile consistently all the time. I can't even explain to you how amazing this book is. And Eleanor and Park is one of my favorite narrative types. It is her perspective, his perspective, her perspective, his perspective, and I love that. And it's not very well done in most books, but this one I found it was fabulous and I loved it. So I highly, highly recommend it. Next I have Stardust by Neil Gaiman. I have started Neverwhere by Neil Gaiman and I haven't finished it yet. It's really good, I just haven't had a lot of time, so that one sadly is not making my top 13 because I don't think it's right for me to put a book on my top 13 that I haven't actually finished, even though I know that if I had finished it, it would be on my top 13. But this book is so good. I've seen the movie 1,000 times because I love it so much, and when I found out that it was a book, I just had to read it, and I flew through this book. I had me addicted to it from like the first line of the first page. By the way, the first line of the first page, just in case you're curious, is, "There was once a young man who wished to gain his heart's desire." And heart's desire is capitalized. Huh? What? What? Are you like wanting to go buy this book now? Because I'm sorry, but I'm also not sorry. So yes, this book is also really good for people in high school or university who have to write an essay on a novel, because this whole book is just chock full of archetypes and symbolism and metaphors and wonderfulness, so I would highly, highly recommend this book. I also got to meet Neil Gaiman this past summer. I got to work an event that he was doing because the bookstore that I work at was running that event, and he was so nice. He was like the nicest person in the world. He signed books for people for like 8 hours. He broke his thumbnail right off of his thumb and he continued to sign books for people. That's how amazing he is. So if you needed a reason to pick up a Neil Gaiman book other than the plotline of his books, he's a wonderful human being. My next 2 books in my top 13 of 2013 are actually books that I read this month, so I hope I'm not biased towards them because I read them recently, but I really don't think I am. I think they're just ridiculously wonderful novels. And the first one is Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Cohn and David Levithan. I love David Levithan. I've always loved David Levithan, but I've never read one of his collaborations with Rachel Cohn before, and this book was so wonderful. It was just enough literary elements with just enough wonderful, adorable, cute elements while keeping the characters realistic. And realistically, characters fall in love with each other. Real people, fall in love with each other when they are not that similar. So it was really nice to meet these 2 characters that had a lot not in common at first, but then throughout the book you kind of find out that the things you think you don't have in common on the outside really don't matter once you delve into someone's personality and realize that you might have some deeper things in common. So that's really exciting, and I love this book. So cute, so quick, so wonderful. I highly recommend it. The 8th book in my top 13 of 2013 is Let It Snow by John Green, Maureen Johnson, and Lauren Miracle. I loved this book so much. When I read this book, I really needed just a really wonderful, lighthearted, fun book, and this book was just that. It didn't try to push you really, it just gave you wonderful characters that needed to go through wonderful life lessons in a wonderful way, and it just made me really excited for Christmas and snow, and it's so good. The whole time I was reading this, I was just angry that these 3 short stories weren't full novels. So that being said, disclaimer, Maureen Johnson, can you please turn the Jubilee Express into a whole novel, because me and Stuart need a little bit more time together. Okay? Okay. And my next 2 books are by the same author. The first book is Please Ignore Vera Diaz by A.S. King. This book has pretty much every element of a book that you want. It has multiple narrators, but a main narrator. It has a wonderful plotline. It has a cute love story, but it's realistic without being super realistic. A.S. King is very good at writing contemporary teen fiction novels that have just a little bit of magical realism in them, and I love that. So I would highly recommend this book if you want a kind of dense but wonderful contemporary read that has just a little bit of magic or magicalness in it. And the next book by A.S. King I actually don't have on me because I lent it out, and that is Ask the Passengers by A.S. King. And I'm really sad because I actually love the cover of that book. But that book is just so wonderful. It's also an LGBT book, and I love LGBT books. I find that they're always extremely well written for some reason. But it is about a girl who likes to project her love to strangers, and you as a reader kind of get to see how that love is taken in by strangers, and then she becomes best friends with an invisible Socrates who becomes her invisible best friend and helps her make life decisions. What more could you ever want in a book? Ever. So the 11th and 12th books on my top 13 of 2013 I also don't have on me because I've lent them out, because I tend to lend out my favorite books to people a lot because I just want them to love them as much as I love them. So the 11th book is Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. I actually read Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson right at the beginning of 2013, and I read it in an entire sitting, one day, cover to cover. I'm not even sure I even got up to eat or anything during that book. It was so good. I love Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson because it does not have a romance element to it. The whole plotline is just driven by a character who needs to figure out what's going on in her life, and you as a reader need to figure out what happened to her at the end of grade 8 that made her entire classmates hate her. And I love that. I cannot think of another teen fiction novel that doesn't in some way have a romance going on in the story as a main plot or a subplot or a tiny plot, but this book had no romance element, and I loved that so much. So I would highly, highly recommend it to you if you haven't read it. And the 12th book on my top 13 of 2013 is Warm Bodies by Isaac Marion. I loved this book so much. It was so good. When I picked up Warm Bodies, it was a book club pick for me, and I really thought I was going to hate it, but I had to read it because I run a book club and that was the pick for the book club. But I devoured it. I remember when I was reading that book, there was a time where my boyfriend woke up in the middle of the night and he was just like, "What are you doing?" Because my book light had broken and I turned the main light on in the bedroom because I just had to keep reading this book. So it's so good. R is so adorable and lovable as a zombie, and Julie is just well developed and strong as a female character, and I would highly, highly recommend it to anyone. And my 13th book on my top 13 of 2013 is Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe by Benjamin Alir Sands. I really hope I'm not butchering that name. This book is so good. I have a review of this book that I will link in the description below. I loved this book. It is about two boys in the 1980s just becoming best friends and growing up and kind of figuring out who they are and who they want to be. The whole premise of the book is that they want to figure out what the secrets of the universe are so that they can continue to live in the universe and understand why the universe does the things that it does. And it's just so beautiful. The sub-characters in this book are wonderful. It also deals with LGBT issues because one of the main characters is gay, and it's just wonderful. I would highly, highly recommend this book if you haven't read it yet. So yeah, that is my top 13 from 2013. There are a few books missing from this picture, unfortunately, but for the most part, these are all of my books. That is my top 13 from 2013. If you have read any of these books, or if you have your own top 13 of 2013 video, please comment below and let me know. I would love to watch other people's videos, and if you've read any of these, I'd love to talk to you about them, or if you haven't read them and you want to read them, I'd love to talk to you. But yeah, pretty much that's it. So I'm really excited to get started on my 2014 reading list, and it's gonna be a wonderful, wonderful year, I already know. And yeah, so I hope you guys all had a wonderful 2013 year, and I hope you have a wonderful and safe New Year's. And yeah, I will see you guys soon. Bye, world!